Welcome to Change the Narrative. I'm your host, JD Fuller, an African-American, licensed psychotherapist, professor, diversity coach, consultant, and author. We talk about the isms. We talk about the phobias, anything that marginalizes and oppresses. Everything we are not and everything we are is because of fear. Through a mental health lens, we'll have difficult conversations with celebrity guests, political activists, and everyone in between. Our mind will tell us whatever we want to believe, but the truth lives in the body, and that's where change occurs. Are you ready to change the narrative? Zach Gray.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. I can't wait to get to know more about you. Let's jump right into it. So let's start by explaining a bit about who you are. All right. Because I always like to give a little background on how people got to be who they are. So
Sure.
How did a white guy from Michigan decide to become a clinical social worker, first of all?
Yeah. It's funny. I just had this conversation with a client today. So I grew up in northern Michigan, just under the Mackinac Bridge. And I did not know what social work was because I grew up in a small town. I got to school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then someone introduced me to social work, and I was like, okay, yep, that fits. I knew that I was good at building relationships and talking with people, and then I was like, all right, let me give this a shot. So then I got into the social work classes, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this fits for sure. So.
And so what in your family led you to that, though? Because, I mean, a lot of families, particularly with, males, are kind of specific. They can be pretty brutal about what it is you should be doing. Did your family just fall in line with that or what?
Yeah. My parents were very supportive of that. The way I got into social work was my own childhood trauma, but I'm not going to trauma dump right now.
No, you know what? Seriously, if you've ever watched any of the interviews I've done, basically I have a disclaimer that says, and I say this to clients as well, trust me, none of us got here because we're just, good-hearted people who just happen to be curious about the field.
Right, that's real.
We all have a story, so I
Oh yeah,
appreciate that.
absolutely. Yeah, and there's a lot of mental health in my family that kind of led me to jump into the field. So I was like, oh, I think that I can empathize with what a lot of people are going through.
So you had not only empathy, but you also must have had a curiosity about where it all came from, like how it started, the
Oh yeah,
manifestation, all of that, right?
yeah, absolutely. Um, I love to learn, and it was just, I'm not sure why it clicked with me, I guess, but just getting to know, I guess, the theories and the people that are involved in the work, and just seeing how important the work is, really just struck a chord in me.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, when it hits, it hits.
Yes.
So, in terms of theory, what comes to mind as what grasped you first in the work? Do you recall?
Oh man, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
Yeah, I think really like person centered
Okay.
is really what clicked for me, because I was just again talking to a client today, and I said, some therapists come in, they're very regimented, they have specific plans on what they want to do, and they're very um, just straightforward about the way they operate. And I mean, I'm straightforward too, but I just, to me, the person is the expert on themselves, and that's I'm there to listen to their stories, to make sure that they feel heard and understood and validated. And so just that approach to seeing a person in a holistic manner, and just as they are as a human being, I feel like in this field, um, seeing kids come fresh out of school, they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. And I think a lot of times people look at the people they work with. I really hate the word clients or consumers or any other thing that people use, but I go with it sometimes because that's the name of the game. But I always try to remind myself I've either been in a similar position as them, or I'm always just a half step away from being right where they're at.
Yeah, I feel you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Hmm.
You know, I'm going to jump to your social media. So,
Okay.
your TikTok with over 100,000 followers says abolish white supremacy.
Yeah.
And on your Insta, you have a picture of yourself in a t-shirt that says black women are dope.
Yep.
And your Twitter leads with no justice, fuck peace. How and when did you get to this place?
Oh boy. Okay. I was trying to tell my people I wouldn't cuss on the podcast. That nobody thought that I could
Good
do.
luck with that.
Okay, yeah, that's what they all said. But honestly, I'll start in 2019, and it might sound like it doesn't connect, but I'll connect it.
Okay.
So I got a traumatic brain injury after an MMA fight, and everything kind of unraveled after that. All my meds that I take stopped working. I just
Wow.
pretty much kind of I was very depressed. I was uh kind of lost my identity. Well, I guess I hadn't even really found it at that point, but the more that I, went through physical therapy, vestibular therapy, speech therapy, and the more I kind of healed from that, I started to deconstruct my Christianity. And I had been in the church for a long time, done everything in the church, whatever. And um, it really clicked with me that in the church, they do not, in the churches that I've experienced, the white churches I've experienced specifically, they never addressed social issues. They never addressed white supremacy, racism, whatever, which of course the church has a direct hand in. Um, and I really started to feel uncomfortable. And I had never really felt like I fit in the church uh, for most of my life. But regardless, my ex-wife and I, just to back up a little bit, had been foster parents for a while and took in kids in our community with the idea that we'd help reunite them with their family. And two of my children that we ended up adopting from foster care ended up not having family that could take them after, well, that's what they tell you. You know how the system works. And so we, like I said, we adopted them. So my daughter's Latina, my son is black. And so fast forward back through 2019, we get into 2020. And uh, when we start with Ahmaud Arbery, that really started to stir something up inside. And then we got to George Floyd, and that's where, ooh, when I could, something happened inside of me where I could see my son's face in this experience, and something broke, uh, and I could never go back to where I was before. And I had spoken out on just social justice issues and stuff beforehand, but like I talk a lot about just taking the gloves off, and then Breonna Taylor, and then so that radicalized me. But then when I got down to Louisville, I remember I was just got a new job at a place I'd been before, but I came in a new position, and I heard the news regarding Breonna Taylor case, and I just knew that like I had to go. I could not stay in my office and not do anything. Um, Now there were two organizations from Michigan that had already gone down there, Justice for Black Lives, and at that point it was Black Lives Matter Muskegon, which is where I'm from. And so me and another guy that I had just kind of knew around the community, we decided to head down. And once I got to Louisville and I saw what like it felt like it was a war zone. Just boarded up buildings, fenced up city. Hardly anyone was down there. They had the National Guard, armored vehicles, all this stuff. And I always remember this first experience with one of the community leaders down there. We were all circled up and he was talking. He said, if you are scared, go the fuck back home. And at that moment, I realized this is different than any other experience that I've had. Because I helped organize kind of behind the scenes up here in Michigan, some protests and some other events in Michigan. And, but when like I said, when I got down there, it's a real deal. And then everything I experienced down there just turned me militant about everything. And I couldn't, I still feel the fire from those experiences and understanding that I don't have, we're here for a very short amount of time. And the issues of white supremacy and racism and justice are so, they're life or death. And I need, as a white person, other white people to understand that we can't just have gentle, calm conversations about things that are taking people's lives. And so, you know, I took the approach that I did, and I guess that's how I ended up here.
Okay, so in that one response, you brought me to tears. You have changed the whole order of my focus and gotten me completely curious about MMA, which I feel guilty about loving. So I want to go back to come forward. I mean, wow, a traumatic brain injury. That's serious shit from a sport that is devastating and yet amazing all at the same time.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about it now?
I love it. If that hadn't happened, and I did sports my whole life, so if I hadn't already had multiple concussions before that, I'd do it again tomorrow in a heartbeat. And I know this might be hard to believe, but I'm a very intense person, so
No, I get that. Believe me, intensity recognizes intensity.
Yeah, for sure. And so, you know, putting myself in a position to test the absolute extremes of my physical and mental abilities it's something I'll never forget. You know, when the cage locks and there's no way out, you got to fight through it. And that just, that was an amazing experience.
Well, what a metaphor for what you decided to become in terms of, you know, an abolitionist regarding white supremacy. It's, you know, it sounds like to me, metaphorically, you've already had the training to prepare you for it. And, you know, a couple of things we touch on that are super important to me are, you know, it sounds like one of those commercials, like, I have a lot of white friends. But the thing is that my problem is there's a lot of empathy or apologies about white supremacy, but not enough fire and action for me in the white community, even those that I love dearly. There's just not enough. I mean, that's the bottom line. You get to the point in your life at my age, you know, being 64 this year, it's like I'm just tired of the bullshit. Like, I'm tired.
Absolutely.
You're not about that life. I have to create distance. So I appreciate how you got there. And most importantly, you know, I know people who have adopted Black children and they don't have this fire, and I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. How do you look at a Black face you love and not feel and experience what you experience, Zach? I need you to help me understand that if you have any idea.
Well, this will segue into my last marriage, and I have to be careful about how much I speak on this because I run my mouth so damn much. My ex-wife's attorney put it in the orders that I have to be careful what I say, which is funny. But this was the issue with my ex-wife, is that I had taken a stance with my family and her family, said, if you are going to in any way support people, I don't care who it is, that espouse like white supremacy or that are openly racist or whatever, you will not be in my children's lives. Now, I know I cannot protect my children from racism. I know that. But they're so young. And I said, I am raising a Black child and a Latina child. We are not raising white children. And you cannot see them as that. I need you to recognize their who they are as a human being. Um, and I needed my ex to stand with me on that, and we just saw things differently. And I had this conversation so many times, just what you're talking about. I said, how can you look at our son, look at what's going on in the world, and how does this not light a fire for you? Why? And it just wouldn't click with her. And it was extremely frustrating. And I mean, it was beyond frustrating, but it really came down to I just realized we had our core values were just different. And I could not stay with somebody didn't, that it just didn't click with. And I think, and to segue a little bit into the discussion of foster care and these parents that adopt Black children or children of color, I've been a foster care worker, I've been a licensor, CPS, all that. And I've trained foster parents. And in that training, they don't prepare you address this stuff at all. Yeah, you already know. Like they don't. It's not a thing. They're just.
That's a whole other show, Zach.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they try to pull people in just because they need homes. And I don't understand how. Well, I'll always remember this is I listened to a Black transracial adoptee talk about how people that adopt children, adoption is one of the most selfish things you could choose. And that one stuck. And I had to sit with that one for a minute. And I understood that adoption, foster care, whatever, is fulfilling something inside of the parents that do this. And if you are not willing to understand the true depth of what it means to be involved in the lives of children that don't look like you should not be around them, period. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I again, when I feel so aligned with someone, I feel like my head is bobbing because I'm in such strong agreement. And I don't think we can emphasize enough. If you adopt a Black child or you are co-parenting to raise a child from the global majority, you need to be about that life, or you need to
Yes.
not do it. You don't be walking around with their hair looking crazy.
Right.
Don't be thinking, you can use privilege to not hear what you're going to hear and see what you're going to see. You're no longer a part of an individualistic culture. You're now a part of a collective culture. Collect your ass into some knowledge and figure out how to become a part of the abolition and not sit back as in the comfort of an ally. That pisses me off so much.
Oh my God.
You saying that.
And I had this conversation and I said to my ex-wife, you will one day have to explain why this didn't work out. Because I will. I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. And, once Zay is old enough, I'll share that with him and Ro too. But, he came to me the other day and Zay said, I heard, Donald Trump's a good person. And I was like, okay, well, let me stop you there, And so I just explained to him in a kid-friendly way that he's not. I was like, he just went out to eat with somebody that hates Black people. And that was just one of the things. But,
sure.
So then I got on Messenger and I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know we had this conversation. And this is the kind of shit that you're going to have to own up to my ex. And I'm just letting you know this is coming, and it's, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I feel you. So now I'm going to shift gears just a little bit again, because your Psychology Today bio tones it down a bit. And it says that cultural competency is important to you and you desire to create a safe space. And I'm going to challenge this because just based on how you present, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously don't look mainstream. I mean, you look like, a radical person is whatever they call radical.
Yeah.
You look like your average white boy. How's that?
Right.
Okay. And so, the idea of you working cross-culturally in a therapeutic dynamic, I've struggled with the word safe because, as I say to students when I'm teaching them, I've never experienced safety in my life.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know what safety is, and I know other
Yeah.
Black bodies and bodies of color feel the same way. So, how do you manage to think about what it might mean to create a space that's not re-traumatizing? In that, the macro infiltrates the micro. What goes on
Right.
outside is in your body. So when you come into a therapeutic relationship with somebody who looks like a representative of the culture, how do you manage that, really, is the question.
Yeah, absolutely. When I come in and I have clients that are Black clients or clients from different cultural backgrounds, I pretty much set the stage by saying, look, we experience life way differently. And I will probably get some things wrong. If I do, please correct me in any way that you see fit. And, I only see life from one specific perspective, but I'm always going to try to be respectful and listen to your experiences and empathize as much as I can. But I don't experience life the same way that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I also think the other piece that's really important for white clinicians who work cross-culturally to say is that it is not your job to teach me. It's your
Yeah.
job to stand up for yourself, and I want to empower you because I can take whatever hit you need to give me. Because I
Yes.
never had a white therapist say that to me, and I really wish they had. I spent money to
Yeah.
teach them about my culture, and if I could remember who they all were, I'd go back and have a conversation with them, get a
Yeah.
refund. you
Right,
know?
right. For real, yeah.
So I appreciate that you open up with that. I have students who say, well, when should I bring it up? It's so uncomfortable. If you enter in that room with a person cross culturally, it's your responsibility to create the opening for that conversation. It's not
Yeah.
their responsibility. Like, that's
Right.
not taught, and it should be.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yes.
It's
That's
irresponsible, right?
basic.
It's
Yeah.
basic, I'm at the point where I'm saying it's unethical. And
Yes.
why isn't the licensing getting more involved in how unethical that is, right?
Absolutely.
So then, I have some clinicians on who are African American who have said they don't think um, white clinicians should treat Black bodies or people from the global majority. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it totally makes sense to me.
Okay.
That's not offensive. It's not like we we practice regardless of how much decolonization, deconstruction, whatever other word, we still practice from a position of privilege. And sometimes we just can't offer what needs to be offered. And that does make sense to me. Um I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that it's important for so just for an example, my wife is Black, and my wife um has talked about her experiences with therapy over the years, and I'm not going to get too much into her story, but it hasn't been a positive one. And she has talked about wanting to look into therapy um, down the road, and she wants a Black woman as a therapist. And like no other exceptions, like that's the plan.
Right.
And uh, it just makes sense to me.
Okay.
So yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate
Hmm.
that. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure we're on the same page, which in the belief that therapy is not neutral.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, a lot of white-bodied clinicians making a lot of money off of their social media, espousing therapeutic uh, sort of modalities and beliefs that are not, they're Eurocentric. They are
Yes.
not culturally competent, aware, culturally sensitive. And it just pisses me off so much that I know some people of color are watching them and taking that information and believing it, and they're making lots of
Yeah.
money off of that. Really, really angers me. So,
Yes.
right? You see it too,
Oh yeah.
right? Okay. So I've challenged some of them, and of course, the fragility comes out. So that's not the
Right.
point. But the point is, you know, you tone it down professionally to a degree. I understand why, but on the other hand, it's like could you treat somebody who espouses white supremacy rhetoric? I mean, would that
No.
be so? I
It,
I want to encourage you to come a little bit stronger on your professional profile because
okay.
I'm not sure people know that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'll definitely adjust that later
You
today,
know,
actually. But I have had people in there that have said some reckless shit, some white
hmm
people specifically, and I correct them on the spot. I'll be like, listen, like that language is not going to fly in here, and I have a problem with that. Or these ideas that you have, I'm going to push back on them, and I don't. I will not make it a safe space for that. That's for goddamn sure.
I respect
Um,
that.
yeah,
Respect that. It's funny because my intro is I'm not for everybody, as a therapist, and
yeah,
my website says it, my therapy, website says it. Obviously I have a podcast where clients can see, you know, the one thing that has given me longevity is being authentic and standing in my truth.
yes,
When I think about the places where I've been burnt out, it's because I have not stood in my truth in that way.
yes,
I want to encourage
yeah.
you to do that and stand strong. The clients
Heard.
will
Thank
find you.
you.
The clients will find you. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that after my MMA fight or whatever, and after I entered the spiral, if you will,
Yeah,
authenticity became my um, life's goal, if you will, and I had just due to my own trauma and whatever growing up, I knew how to maneuver all different social settings. I knew how to people please. I knew how to keep the peace if I needed to.
sure.
But I said, fuck that. I'm not doing that anymore. This is who I am. If you don't like me, I don't really care. I'm still going to sleep good. But I do carry that over into my therapy as well. But I like that idea, and I'm definitely going to take that and apply that, what you just said. So I appreciate that.
Right on. Right on. So you went hard on one of your posts, man. I was like shaking my head. You were in a boat and you said you were on your way to see if the Pope made it safely to hell in time to ring the New Year.
Yeah.
Wait, let me finish it. You said you said you wanted to make sure you wanted to see if the Pope made it safely to hell in time to ring in the New Year with Rush Limbaugh and Christie.
uh,
Tell me about that. And did you get any backlash from that? What was that like?
excuse me. Actually, I didn't, but I also get shadow banned a lot on TikTok. So,
Oh, I mean,
uh,
I don't even have a big platform, and I do.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Anything regarding conversation of anything about whiteness or white supremacy, they're like, oh, let's just
Yeah,
show that to 10
you get
people.
a 30-day rest.
Right, for really. I don't, yeah. Um, there's these public figures, these white public figures that people idolize, or, I mean, we talk about the Pope, and obviously we know goes on in the Catholic Church, and he couldn't even condemn that before he died. So, like, sorry, bro, I don't really give a shit. Like, you got to go in, these ideas that all these white public figures have some, I feel like people treat them like they don't, like, they're untouchable, or their problematic stances on things are just an opinion or whatever, when really it's violent, like it's violence.
Mhm.
And so I don't buy into this idea that you have to be respectful with these people or respect their legacy or whatever the bullshit is. I'm going to call it how I see it. And I'm going to use some shock so that it gets people to think, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do. It makes sense to me. And look, I've said it a million times. The saddest thing in the world to me, aside from just the white supremacy we live in, is that white people listen to white people. When black people
Yeah.
have been saying what we've been saying, for so many years. And
Yeah.
while I appreciate white bodies, becoming more vocal and active, there is a sadness to the fact that, oh, now you hear what we're saying,
Right.
because of the messenger. It's more trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. I made a video about that too, where I was like, y'all, like, you shouldn't be listening to me. Like, you need to listen to Black creators, the Black community. Go, like, I mean, I know you might listen to me, but I am not the person you should be taking this information from. Like, and that's a conversation I had back in 2020. I was like, some of you say you can talk about racism, white supremacy, all this shit, but you can't even hear it from me as a white dude. So how are you about to tell me that you're going to listen to the Black community, but you can't even take it from me? Like, you're out of your mind.
Right.
And that's why I've recently, over the past few months, tried to be really intentional about, specifically on TikTok, just like centering Black voices as opposed to myself, because that's what's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you on that. I appreciate that too. You challenged other white bodies about their public political stance not matching their personal life, and how they don't challenge white supremacy in their inner circles. Talk about that. Because I can see you talk the talk and walk the walk. So talk about that.
Yeah. Oh man, this one pisses me off, because I know plenty of white people that, we saw them performatively show up for a protest in 2020 and be like, I did my part, Black Lives Matter. And then, a week later, they don't give a shit anymore. And that's not acceptable. You cannot speak on these things, pretend to care, and pretend to be involved, and not walk the walk. Like, people see through that shit immediately, especially in the Black community, because I've been, walking through this experience and just watching the white people fall off to the wayside. And, some of the people that are close to me that are Black will be like, yeah, we fucking knew that. Like, it's just a matter of time for white people. And it's all lip service. It's lip service. And if you cannot practice what you preach, for me, that's what I say. Like, if you're not really about this, like, get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what I like about how you challenge them specifically is you were real specific. You were real. Like, if you're going to be performative in public life, but you don't bring that into your home life, the family, the people with whom you share comfort, then you're lying, basically,
Yeah.
which was real clear. It wasn't like you need to do this, that, and the other. Because on LinkedIn the other day, one of my previous guests, he hit me up inbox and he was like, I'm hurting from these recent murders. I essentially, like, this shit is hard. And I said, I know I've been pretty fucked up consistently. And one of the reasons I laid off of teaching for a while is because I bring myself into the classroom, and bringing myself into the classroom week after week and sharing my trauma. It got real rough for me. I had to take a break for a minute. So I felt him on that. And I saw a post that he made about, stepping forward into action. And white people did what white people do. You have anything we can read? Do you have something we can see? I just linked in the post and was like, if I see another person say Happy MLK Day, and ask what to do, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I'm so done being polite and,
absolutely,
like, trying to be patient with your I don't know stance. Like, figure it out. You have access to everything. Figure it out. Do something. We're the ones that had to learn our own history. Right.
Like, do a 5-second Google search, and just to jump back to that point, as far as people, social media is accessible to a lot of people, and people post whatever they post. But then, for me, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, does your family know where you stand? Do your friends know where you stand? Do your coworkers know where you stand? Do your acquaintances know where you stand? And if your answer is no, that's a problem, because you're too scared, and we can't be scared. Now is not a time to be scared.
Absolutely. I mean, we Black bodies are scared every day. We still get up and do what we have to do. A friend of mine said, oh, well, I don't use my social media for that. Really? That's a good one.
I've heard that one.
You don't use it to try to save Black lives? That's interesting. And then
and that's ultimately, I'm sorry. Yeah. that's ultimately how I lost my last job. So
Welcome.
yeah, and that's not
Welcome.
the first time it's happened. So,
Right. That's why I
but I
said if
know
you're
it's
not
part
getting
of the
fired,
deal.
hey, if you're not getting fired for the right reasons, something's wrong with how you're walking.
Hell yeah.
I truly believe that. Zach, you have a blended family, a blended mixed race family.
Yeah.
And I want to know, what do you know now that you didn't know before about how to co-parent this crew you have? You about to bring a little mixed race baby girl into the world.
Uh
Congratulations.
huh. Thank
What
you.
what do you know now? What do you know now?
Listen to my wife. Listen to her experiences. Um, put her experiences above my opinion, above my knowledge, above what I think I know. And because she's got on my ass before and she's had to correct me a few times, and I had to sit with that. And I really honestly let her, not let her, she takes the lead. And I follow and I try to do my best to be the best dad that I can to all the kids, and but I really just try to um default to how she does things, and again to her experiences and her experiences in life. We talk about this stuff all the time, and she really just keeps my ass in check.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was talking about this research because I've been doing this for way too many years. And
Yeah.
like 100 years ago, I did this training, and I had found some research that said, when you're raising mixed race kids, if the more oppressed parent takes the lead and teaches the child about the oppressed experience, and the more privileged parent teaches the child how to use privilege responsibly, this is how you raise a bicultural child that is ready for a world that is going to
Yeah.
who's going to disapprove of who they are, essentially.
Right.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah, that's heavy. That's good.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I use it all the time.
Mhm.
Zach, it's been a
Uh-huh.
pleasure. Look, I want to come off the back. I knew you were going to be interesting. I knew I welcomed your intensity. I felt your vibe, and I appreciated it. That's why I asked you to come on. It's been great. I appreciate your social media platforms. I've just really enjoyed spending time with you, and I want you to know that straight out.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's what a pleasure and honor to talk to you, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
It's really been a good time for real. Thank you.
Listen, let everybody know what your social media's handles are because they need to be following you.
Okay. TikTok is FTPX1312. My Instagram is Gray Matter, Gray Matter 231. My Facebook is also Gray Matter. And man, I haven't been on Twitter in a minute, so I'm not sure where it's at right now. But those are the ones that I'm mainly on.
Okay, my man. Thanks so much again. Let's be in
Thank
touch
you.
and
Okay.
have a great year and I hope to see you again. How about that?
Sounds good. I appreciate that. You take care, okay?
All right, thanks. I'll let you know when
All
the
right.
show drops.
Sounds good. We'll see ya.
Okay, bye.